Jonathan Reed believed money could fix almost anything. Doctors, experts, private clinics, silence. So when he heard laughter coming from his backyard one afternoon, his first reaction was not relief but terror. Because his 6-year-old son had not laughed in 4 years. Not since the accident. Not since the diagnoses that told him his child would never connect with the world again. What Jonathan saw next shattered everything he trusted. A woman he barely noticed. A child everyone had given up on. And a truth so disturbing that if he stayed silent even one more day, his son might not survive the night. This is the story of the moment a father realized his greatest enemy was already living inside his own home. Jonathan Reed had negotiated hostile takeovers, faced down federal investigations, and signed contracts that decided the fate of thousands of employees. None of that prepared him for the sound he heard when he pulled into the driveway of his Connecticut estate at 4:15 in the afternoon. Laughter, not the polite laughter of adults or the distant echo of neighbors' children. This was raw, uncontrolled, unmistakably joyful laughter. Jonathan froze with one foot still inside the car. His Italian leather briefcase slipped from his hand and hit the gravel with a dull thud he barely noticed. His heart began to pound so violently he thought he might pass out. The laughter was coming from the backyard. That made no sense. His son did not laugh. Ethan Reed, 6 years old, had not laughed in 4 years. Not since the car accident that killed Jonathan's wife and left their child labeled with words that had become prison bars. Severe autism, nonverbal, emotionally detached, permanently disconnected. That was what the specialist said. That was what Jonathan had accepted. He walked slowly toward the garden, his body heavy, his breath shallow, as if he were approaching a crime scene. The late afternoon sun cast long, golden shadows over the perfectly manicured lawn. And then he saw it. Ethan was on top of a woman's back, his small arms wrapped around her shoulders, his face buried against her neck. She was crawling across the grass on her hands and knees, making exaggerated horse noises, completely unconcerned about the dirt staining her uniform or the yellow rubber gloves still on her hands. Ethan was laughing so hard his body shook. Jonathan's knees nearly buckled. That woman was not a therapist, not a specialist flown in from Europe, not one of the highly paid experts Victoria insisted upon. She was the housekeeper, Lena Morales. Jonathan had barely spoken to her since she was hired. Victoria had made sure of that. Staff were not to interact with Ethan beyond basic hygiene. No touching, no playing, no stimulation. And yet here was his son doing the impossible. Ethan lifted his head and Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. His eyes were focused, not drifting, not empty. Focused on Lena with a devotion that felt like a punch to Jonathan's chest. Jonathan took a step forward and the grass crunched under his shoes. Lena felt it instantly. She stopped mid-movement. The smile vanished from her face as if someone had turned off a light. Slowly, she lowered Ethan to the ground, her movements careful and controlled, as if diffusing a bomb. She dropped to her knees. "I am so sorry, sir," she said, her voice trembling. "I did not see the time. I did not know you would be home early. He just wanted to play for a minute." Jonathan could not speak. Ethan made a soft protesting sound and grabbed the sleeve of Lena's uniform, smearing dirt across the fabric. He did not want to let go. Then something happened that shattered what remained of Jonathan's certainty. Ethan crawled forward and positioned himself directly in front of Lena. He raised his arms. His small body trembled, but his stance was deliberate. He was protecting her. Jonathan felt something inside him break open. This child, this boy who supposedly did not recognize people, who was said to experience humans as objects. He knew exactly who Lena was, and he knew exactly who he feared. Jonathan swallowed hard. His voice came out hoarse. "Do not move." Lena froze completely. Tears welled in her eyes. Jonathan crouched down slowly, ignoring the expensive suit pressing into the damp grass. His gaze never left Ethan. 4 years. 4 years of silence. 4 years of empty stares. 4 years of sedatives and wheelchairs and whispered conversations behind closed doors. And in 20 minutes, a young woman with rubber gloves had done what no doctor ever had. Jonathan looked up at Lena. "Since when?" She blinked, confused. "Sir? Since when does he laugh like that?" Lena hesitated. Fear flashed across her face. Saying the wrong thing could cost her everything. But Ethan's fingers tightened around her sleeve, and she seemed to draw courage from the contact. "Since always," she said softly. "Since I started working here." Jonathan felt the world tilt. "Always," he repeated. "The doctors say his muscles are atrophied. They say he cannot focus, that his laughter is involuntary." Lena shook her head. "He is not broken, sir. He is scared. Jonathan stared at her. Scared of what? She met his eyes. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Not of what? Of who? A chill ran down Jonathan's spine. Before he could ask more, the roar of an engine cut through the air. A red sports car screeched to a stop at the front of the house. Ethan reacted instantly. The laughter vanished. His shoulders stiffened. His eyes glazed over. His body went rigid like a switch had been flipped. Jonathan's heart stopped. Lena turned pale. She is home, she whispered. That was all the proof Jonathan needed. He straightened slowly, his face calm, his mind suddenly razor sharp. Years of corporate warfare had taught him one lesson above all others. Never strike before the enemy reveals themselves. Get up, he said quietly to Lena. Put on your gloves. Act like nothing happened. She looked at him in confusion. He leaned closer, his voice cold and precise. From this moment on, we are allies. No one can know what I saw. Not today. High heels clicked across marble inside the house. Victoria Hale was back. Jonathan turned and walked toward the side entrance, forcing his steps to be steady. I will enter through my office. She will think I am still at work. Observe everything. Tonight changes everything. From behind heavy curtains, Jonathan watched. Victoria stepped onto the lawn like she owned the air itself. Designer sunglasses, perfect hair, a smile sharp enough to cut glass. What is this mess? She snapped. Lena shrank instantly. Ethan collapsed inward. His body curled. His face went blank. Jonathan gripped the window frame until his knuckles turned white. This was not autism. This was survival. Victoria grabbed Ethan's arm roughly and pulled him upright. The boy did not resist. He went limp in her hand. You are filthy, she hissed. I leave you alone for 5 minutes and you turn into an animal. She turned to Lena. Prepare his drops. Double dose. He is overstimulated. Jonathan closed his eyes. Drops. Sedatives. The truth slammed into him with brutal clarity. He was not paying for treatment. He was paying for his son to be erased. Jonathan stepped out of the office and forced exhaustion into his voice. Victoria, I am home. Her entire posture changed in seconds. The venom vanished. The smile returned. My love, she said sweetly. What a surprise. Jonathan walked toward his son and lifted him into his arms. Ethan stiffened. Jonathan leaned close and whispered, barely moving his lips. Plain. The smallest hand touched his shoulder. Alive. Jonathan's jaw tightened. The war had begun, and this time, he would not lose. As Jonathan held his son and felt the faint but undeniable response, one question burned in his mind and demanded to be asked not only of himself, but of everyone watching. Do you think a father should ever trust doctors and caregivers more than his own eyes and instincts when it comes to his child, yes or no? Jonathan Reed did not sleep that night. He lay beside Victoria, listening to her slow, satisfied breathing, while every muscle in his body stayed rigid. His eyes remained open in the dark, staring at the ceiling of a bedroom that suddenly felt like enemy territory. Beside him, his son was drugged into silence 2 floors below. Jonathan counted breaths, not because he needed calm, but because counting kept him from doing something irreversible. When the clock read 3:12 a.m., he moved, slowly, quietly, with the precision he once used to dismantle rival corporations without anyone realizing they were under attack. He slipped from the bed, dressed in black, and entered his private study. From a hidden compartment behind a painting, he removed a slim black case. Inside were devices he had once used for corporate espionage in hostile markets. Button-sized cameras, long-range microphones, secure cloud transmission. If Victoria was going to lie, she was going to lie to the whole world. Jonathan started with Ethan's room. The door creaked softly. The smell hit him immediately. Antiseptic, chemicals, something cold and clinical that did not belong in a child's bedroom. Ethan lay on the bed, mouth slightly open, chest rising shallowly. He looked nothing like the laughing boy from the afternoon. He looked like what the reports described, a shell. Jonathan's chest tightened. I'm here, he whispered, even though he knew Ethan could not hear him. I won't let this continue. He worked quickly. One camera went into the eye of a stuffed bear, another into the smoke detector, a third behind the curtain with audio, then the hallway, the kitchen, the garden, every place where Victoria commanded, controlled, humiliated. When he finished, the sky was beginning to lighten. In the kitchen, Lena stood at the counter, hands shaking as she poured coffee. She looked like she had not slept at all. Good morning, Jonathan said softly. She jumped, nearly dropping the mug. Sir, she whispered. Jonathan stepped closer. In 10 minutes, I will tell Victoria I have an urgent business trip. I will leave the house, but I am not going far. Her eyes widened with fear. You are leaving Ethan alone with her. I will be watching, he said. Everything. Lena swallowed hard. She will get worse when you are gone. I know, Jonathan replied. That is the point. Lena's lips trembled. If she hurts him, she already has, Jonathan said quietly. Now we prove it. Victoria entered the kitchen wrapped in silk, yawning gracefully. What is the suitcase for? She asked. Jonathan did not hesitate. London, investors, emergency. The relief in her eyes was instantaneous and unmistakable. Oh, she said, hiding her smile against his shoulder as she hugged him. That's terrible timing. He kissed her cheek and tasted something bitter. 3 days, he said. Take good care of Ethan. I always do, she replied smoothly. Jonathan left. He did not drive far. He circled back and entered the abandoned guest house at the edge of the property. Inside, he opened his laptop. The screens came alive. At first, Victoria played the role perfectly. Gentle voice, soft touches, concerned sighs. Then the car disappeared down the driveway, and the mask shattered. Idiot, Victoria muttered, tossing her phone onto the counter. Finally, some peace. She turned to Lena. Lock the basement. The boy stays there today. I have guests coming. Jonathan's blood ran cold. Lena hesitated. Ma'am, it is damp down there. He could get sick. Victoria laughed. He is already defective. Put him away. On the screen, Jonathan watched Lena carry Ethan. The child was limp. Too limp. Victoria shoved the basement door open. Hurry up. His noises annoy me. The camera did not reach the basement stairs, but the audio caught everything. The hollow steps. Lena's sobbing breath. Then silence. Victoria locked the door. Jonathan stared at the screen, his hands clenched so tightly the table creaked. Minutes later, his phone vibrated. A message from the lab he had secretly contacted earlier that morning. Critical toxicology results. The words blurred for a moment as he read them. Sedative levels 3 times higher than safe adult dosage. Combination of central nervous system suppressants. High risk of respiratory failure during sleep. This was not control. This was slow murder. Jonathan closed his eyes. Then the party began. Luxury cars rolled in. Music filled the house. Champagne flowed. Victoria laughed with her friends in the living room. The boy is resting, she said casually. He ruins the mood. Her friends laughed with her. Jonathan felt something inside him go cold and sharp. In the basement camera, infrared light revealed Ethan awake. He sat curled against the wall, rocking silently, fists hitting the floor without sound. His mouth opened as if to call out, but nothing came. Jonathan's vision blurred. Upstairs, Lena moved through the party like a ghost, serving drinks, watching the basement door. She waited for her moment. When Victoria turned her back, Lena grabbed a knife and rushed to the lock. She barely touched it before Victoria appeared behind her. What do you think you're doing? She hissed. On the screen, Victoria raised her glass. Jonathan stood up so fast the chair fell backward. She was going to hit her. Jonathan ran. He did not think. He did not plan. He smashed through the back glass with a patio chair. The music stopped. Screams filled the room. Jonathan burst into the kitchen just as Victoria grabbed Lena by the hair. Let her go, Jonathan roared. Victoria froze. For 1 second, she looked like she had seen a ghost. Then she smiled. You are home early. Jonathan did not respond. He took the key from her dress and unlocked the basement door. He ran down the stairs, calling Ethan's name. The beam of his phone revealed a small, shaking figure in the corner. Dad, Ethan whispered hoarsely. Jonathan dropped to his knees and pulled him into his arms. The child clung to him with desperate strength. When Jonathan carried Ethan back upstairs, the room fell silent. Victoria began to cry. He attacked me, she said to her friends. He has lost his mind. Jonathan said nothing. He handed Ethan to Lena. Then he turned on the television. The videos played. Victoria's voice filled the room. Clear, cruel, confident. Her friends backed away in horror. Police sirens wailed outside. Victoria screamed, threatened, denied. The handcuffs clicked shut. When the house finally emptied, Lena stood trembling. I will leave, she said quietly. I caused too much trouble. Jonathan knelt in front of her. You saved my son, he said. You saved me. Ethan reached out and took her hand. Jonathan watched them and felt the weight of his choices crash down on him. He had trusted power, titles, credentials, and nearly lost everything that mattered. As the night finally settled and Jonathan held his son between himself and the woman who had protected him when no one else would, one thought lingered heavily for anyone listening to this story. If you were in Jonathan's place, would you have been brave enough to expose someone powerful if it meant risking everything you had built? Yes or no? The house was quiet for the first time in years, not the heavy silence Jonathan had learned to fear, but a gentle one, the kind that settles after a storm has passed and nothing else is left to break. Morning light filtered through the tall windows as paramedics finished their checks and police officers removed the last sealed evidence bags. Victoria Hale was gone, not escorted with dignity, not protected by wealth or reputation, but taken out through the same front door she once ruled, her wrists bound, her voice hoarse from screaming that no one believed anymore. Jonathan stood in the doorway of Ethan's room, watching his son sleep. Real sleep. No machines, no restraints, no chemical fog dulling his breath. Ethan's chest rose and fell steadily, his fingers curled loosely around a toy airplane Jonathan had placed in his hand before dawn. When the boy shifted, he made a small sound, not of distress, but of comfort. Jonathan sat beside the bed and let himself cry for the first time since his wife's funeral. The weeks that followed were slow and careful. Doctors came and went, but this time Jonathan chose them. Not the ones recommended by social circles or whispered endorsements from people who valued appearances more than truth. He chose professionals who watched Ethan before they spoke, who listened before they diagnosed, who asked Jonathan to be present instead of pushing him out of the room. The verdict changed everything. Ethan was not severely autistic. He had suffered trauma, conditioning, long-term chemical suppression. His responses were not symptoms. They were defenses, and defenses could be undone. Day by day, Ethan returned, first with gestures, then with sounds, and then with words that arrived like fragile miracles. One afternoon, as Lena knelt on the living room floor assembling wooden blocks with him, Ethan looked up and said her name. Not whispered, not forced, clear. Lena froze, afraid to breathe. Jonathan watched from the doorway, his heart in his throat. Lena, Ethan repeated, smiling. She broke down in tears, pressing her forehead to the floor so he would not see her cry. Jonathan knew then that the shape of their family had already changed. The trial came quickly. Victoria's lawyers fought hard. They blamed stress, miscommunication, claimed Jonathan was an overbearing father who misunderstood treatment plans. They tried to bury Lena in character attacks and dismiss her as an uneducated employee who interfered with medical authority. But the recordings spoke louder than any lawyer. Her voice, her cruelty, her laughter. The jury did not need long. Victoria Hale was convicted on multiple counts of child abuse, unlawful confinement, and medical negligence. Her social circle evaporated overnight. Those who once toasted her elegance suddenly did not recognize her name. Jonathan did not attend the sentencing. He was in the park with Ethan and Lena, watching his son take his first unassisted steps across the grass. The boy stumbled, laughed, and ran into Jonathan's arms. "You're flying," Jonathan whispered. Ethan nodded proudly. Like plane. Jonathan held him and closed his eyes. The past did not disappear, but it no longer controlled the future. Months later, Jonathan sold the estate. Too many memories, too many echoes. They moved to a smaller home near the coast, a place with open windows and neighbors who waved without asking questions, a place where Ethan could walk barefoot and feel safe. Lena tried to leave more than once. "You have given me too much," she said quietly one evening. "I do not belong in this world." Jonathan shook his head. "You belong exactly where you are." The legal paperwork took time, but the decision was already made. Lena became Ethan's legal guardian alongside Jonathan. Not because of obligation, because of love. The first time Ethan called her family, no one corrected him. Jonathan founded a nonprofit foundation dedicated to children misdiagnosed and overmedicated under the weight of convenience. He funded independent oversight programs, training, parent advocacy networks, not in his name, in Ethan's. On a quiet afternoon a year later, Jonathan sat on the porch watching Ethan and Lena build sandcastles by the water. The boy laughed freely now, his voice carrying over the waves. Jonathan thought about the man he had been, powerful, confident, blind. He had trusted systems more than instincts, appearances more than truth, and he had almost paid the highest price. Ethan ran up to him, sand on his knees, eyes bright. "Dad," he said, "watch." Jonathan smiled. "I'm watching. Always." As the sun dipped low and the sky turned gold, Jonathan realized something that stayed with him long after. Saving his son had not required more money or influence. It had required the courage to look again, to question, to listen to someone society told him to ignore. Sometimes the quietest voices carry the truth, And sometimes the greatest wealth a person can ever protect is the life that depends on them. If this story moved you, take a moment and tell us how it made you feel and what you think about Jonathan's choices and Lena's courage. Would you have acted the same way if you were in his place? If you enjoyed the story, please comment below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell next to the subscribe button so you never miss a new story. Let us know which country you are watching from, and if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need to hear it today.